So everything you want to achieve in life, from a successful career, thriving relationships, improved health, or simply to increase your happiness and well-being, everything starts with habits. Habits and Happiness combines years, is a new book, of research by experts in the field of habits, neuroscience, traditional and positive psychology, and teaches you how to apply this new information in a very simple and practical way. The new book, Habits and Happiness, How to Become Happier and Improve Your Well-Being, will help you understand your habits, why you have them, why you can or cannot change them, and how they can work to help you live a great life. The author, Bracco Pobrick, is a best-selling author and a founding member and chief happiness officer of the Institute for Advanced Human Performance. He is a certified positive psychology coach, certified NLP practitioner, and he joins us this morning. Good morning, Bracco.
Good morning. How are you?
Excellent. Hey, thanks for joining me.
Of course. Thanks for the invite.
Tell me a little bit, first of all, just a little bit about yourself, Bracco.
Sure. So just a little bit about myself. I actually came from a country called Bosnia, former Yugoslavia. Came here on a business trip, and basically, as some of your listeners, or most of them know, war started, and I ended up staying in U.S., in New York. I grew up in a home where, my mom, I kind of say that she used to know about positive psychology because before the field was even established. I was happy to grow up in a happy environment, but as things happen in life, not every day is a happy day, and we have to adjust.
It's true.
So in life, I was doing different things. One of the things I used to teach Dale Carnegie course. And that was really to help people, find the friends and influence people. It's kind of communication. And that got me thinking of, this is all good and great. And I was helping, hundreds, thousands of people. It was beautiful. But I wanted to see if there is a science behind it. And this is how I ran into science of positive psychology, a.k.a. science of happiness. And, unfortunately, a lot of people don't even know about it. It is, this science is, sometimes it's almost like privilege to some people for, top university, Harvard and UPenn, and not a lot of things leak out. And I was lucky enough to take a program with Dr. Talpan Shahar, who was a professor at Harvard, who did that famous positive psychology class at Harvard that had 2,000 people. It was like the biggest class ever. And that, says a lot about even young individuals we consider them the most successful. To get to Harvard, you got to be one of the top and the most, the smartest people in the world. And yet, most of these people are not happy. So, and what's really great about this is that there are tools that can help us become happy, and that we can establish habits that will help us become happy. And this is really where, combining science and my own personal experience and applying this in years got me to write this book and help other people apply these tools.
Well, you talk about habits in this book, and you talk about the habit loop, which is a trigger that can pull you into the same behavioral pattern, correct?
Correct.
And there are three different types, or different types of habit loops that you mentioned, is physical, emotional, and thinking. You mentioned a happiness chemical that everyone has control of to release into your brain. Explain that to me.
Thank you so much for bringing it up. You know what? I think this is one of the most fascinating factors and things that I learned after studying habits and happiness. Basically, there is a chemical called dopamine. And if you think about a lot of drugs are based on dopamine, they're really based on, to kind of calm people down and to make them happier. And, as we know, billions of dollars industry. And when I learned that we can actually release our own dopamine, which means that we can learn how to become happy. And as we get a little bit of this dopamine, body and our brain likes it and gives us more. So let me give you an example. Mm-hmm. actually interesting. This morning, I wake up 5 o'clock every morning. This morning was 4:30. And what I do first thing in the morning, and this is really sounds funny, but I smile. And like as soon as I hear the alarm. And people think, why would you smile? So what happens is when you smile, you basically move the muscles in a position that your brain now thinks that you are happy. And even if you are not happy, right, your brain will release some dopamine. As you get a little bit dopamine, your brain will kind of want to give you even more. And then as you go throughout the day, you do these small little things that will give you a little dopamine every once in a while. And again, they will help you become happier. It's really fascinating things. Like to give you another example, if you want to do something that you dread doing, let's say, you want to clean up your basement, and it's a mess, and you're dreading it for years. There's something called small wins, or what they call Kaizen approach. And Kaizen on Japanese means basically just small improvements. And if you just say, let me do this for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. So when I walk into the basement, I will just pick up 2 things, anything I can do in 2 minutes, and, clean, throw it away, clean up my desk, whatever that means. Start exercising. I'll do it for 2 minutes. And as you do this, your brain keeps, I call it thinking, right? Quotation mark thinking that, oh, this is really good. Give you a little bit of dopamine. And as you do this, you do 2 minutes, 3 minutes, all of a sudden you started establishing habits. And that's why this is really important to understand that we can release our own happiness chemical.
Well, we are talking to Brocco Pobrook in his new book, Habits and Happiness, How to Become Happier and Improve Your Well-Being. And there's more with him after the news. Social media since 1924. We are Chicago's very own 720 WGN Chicago. Dave Plyer on this early Sunday morning on 720 WGN. And we're talking about the new book, Habits and Happiness, How to Become Happier and Improve Your Well-Being with author Brocco Pobrook. Brocco, I got a question for you. Now, there are some habits that you mentioned that are formed that you often, when you dig a little deeper to understand them and effectively see how you can change them, and change them from destructive habits to constructive habits. You suggest making a habit chart to remind you of what's working and what's not working, correct?
Yes, correct.
What do you have to do to create that habit chart? What do you have to format? How do you pull that together?
Sure. So thanks. This is really, really great point. So we don't think about habits. Why? Because they're habits, right? We perform them automatically so that it allows our brain to do other tasks that we have to think about it. So what I suggest people do is think about habits. So what do you do? Ask yourself questions. What do I do from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep? So things that you do when you wake up, right? So maybe you have a coffee first thing in the morning, where you take a shower, and then you sit down and you drive, go to work, and then so these are just the questions to what do I eat? When do I have snacks? So let's say I realize that after lunch, I have a cookie, right? So maybe that's one habit that doesn't serve me well. Maybe I'm gaining weight. So what I would do is I would say, okay, having cookie. And then I would say, what time do I have that? Usually, if they habits, there's a certain time. So it might be between 2 and 3 o'clock. When do I have it? So maybe it's only Monday through Friday. That's when I'm at work. So next thing would be location. Where am I? Well, I'm at work. Who's with me, right? So maybe I'm by myself, or I'm in cafeteria with a friend. Charles Duhigg talked about his book, Habits, that, he was having cookie just because he would take a break and go out to talk to people. So it's important to understand who's with you. And then kind of what emotional state. Do you feel good, happy, sad? Some of us eat a lot when we feel depressed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly do. When I'm down or I'm stressed or whatever it might be, that's the first thing I do. I eat terribly.
You see, and you know what? It's okay. Everything is actually okay with humans. But as long as we understand that, and maybe that's something that you say, you know what? It helps me, makes me feel better. It doesn't happen every day. Who cares, right? Or you might say, well, let me watch it, right? And then another thing you say is, what do I do immediately after? Because it's usually there's something that you do immediately after that habit. So that's what I would suggest. Create that chat, understand your habits. Understand what do you do, what time, kind of who's with you. And if nothing else, this will just help you understand them, right? And the next step is to decide, okay, which habit do I want to keep? Some of them are good for me, and some of them I don't want to keep. And if I have a time, actually, I want to explain to you one destructive habit that I had and converted into constructive.
Now, how do you though? You mentioned about also then establishing some new habits. After you've been doing something for so long, how do you stop doing? How do you establish a new one, and how do you stick to it? What's the trick to sticking to it?
That's good. So how do you establish? So first of all, habits are ingrained in our brain. We create what they call certain neural pathways in our brain, and these pathways never get deleted. Really important to understand. So you cannot just get rid of a habit easily. What you can do is you can replace it with another habit. To give an example, I had an interview the other day, and the gentleman was basically, during this discussion, I realized, he said, I just realized that I used to smoke for years, now I have chewing gum, and not only that I take chewing gum, every once in a while I see myself offering chewing gum to people because I used to offer cigarettes to people. Right?
Yeah.
So it's important to understand. Now we can replace them. So in this case, the gentleman replaced smoking with the cigarettes. And how do you stick to it? The first thing is, how do you start anew, right? So how do you start replacing them? And there are a couple of tools. One is what Sean Aker from Harvard called 20-second rule. And what's 20-second rule is to do something in 20 seconds or in a couple of minutes. So give me an example, say one habit that you wanted to establish or replace.
I'll tell you one right now is I get a little stressed thinking about my day the next day sometimes, and I have dessert pretty late at night, and I know you're not supposed to really eat late, but at 10 o'clock I won't mind having a big bowl of ice cream before I go to bed. And I know it's not good for me, and my wife tells me all the time. So how do I break that habit?
Sounds good. Here's what I did, and this may help. I used to do the same thing. And I used to have, dessert and ice cream. So what I do is I introduced a couple of new things. First of all, I introduced what I call the reading habit. So all right, so I'll take it back. So here's what you do. First thing is try to move away from that. So where is the ice cream? Probably in the kitchen, right? So what I do is I go to my bedroom before it's my time to sleep. I distract myself. Mm-hmm. So that my brain, if I do it, will probably forget. That's number one. Number two is the things that I want to eat in the fridge are all the way somewhere on the bottom, meaning that I keep a fruit on my eyes level, right? And the things that are bad for me are somewhere hidden or they're not there. Ideally, right? You start buying ice cream. It's going to be tough. Right, but
yeah, it will be tough. It's funny. We actually moved the ice cream off the main floor into the basement just to make it more difficult. And I thought, well, now I'll just go to the basement. I can work it off, when I put it away. But it just doesn't always happen that way. You also mentioned, Bracco, which I think is really cool. You talk about the 5 deep breaths. Talk to me about that.
So 5 deep breaths. That's the tool from Tom Craig. So what it is we all keep, our parents, grandparents used to just take a deep breath. So the good thing is finally now there's a science behind it that says if you do this, it will calm your brain. It will help you. So what I do is I developed this 5 deep breath exercise. So the first one will just say, you just take a deep breath, right? Mm-hmm. Next thing is you can say, what do I want to be today. So today I want to be calm. And then you'll take another deep breath and say, and, just inside your mind, you'll just say, I am calm today, right? Anything that you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
You will take this, and then the next thing is, maybe what are you grateful for, right? So maybe next deep breath will be, I'm grateful for, my family, for my kids, for my parents, for whatever it is. And then the last thing will be, again, just take a deep breath. And just by doing this, which takes, which takes less than a minute, it will help you calm. And in the beginning, it will sound weird, but trust me, this works so well. And it just takes less than a minute.
No, I like the method. And then what I really like, Rocco, in the book too, that that you help out with is you've mentioned a lot of these things, but then you give a lot of examples, like the small wins habit. There's habits that you kind of guide people through. So you got the exercise habit, the measuring exercise, the walking habit, the new TV habit, the journaling habit, the smile habit, yoga, nature, the strength at work habit, the money management habit. So you're giving tips really for probably the most stressful things in life. And I think that is going to be very helpful to some folks.
Thank you so much. What I think is it's really, a kind of unique in this book is it's based on a science. So each habit has the research behind it. And I think more importantly is, like you said, I explain how I do this. So that's really, I think that's really important for people to understand.
Well, I'll tell you what, the new book is Habits and Happiness, How to Become Happier and Improve Your Well-Being. It's a great guide, great detail, and the author is Rocco Pobrick, and you can find it at Amazon.com. Rocco, thanks for sharing this journey with us this morning. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.